Okay, so now we are in chapter number 2. This video is to discuss how to write the literature review chapter, and this is basically divided into sections. One that is a bit short, doesn't have to be that long. I think one page is enough. Is the method of the literature review. In here, you need to explain, you need to do two things. To be transparent, so show everything you have done, all the procedures you use to identify and analyze the literature. That's the first thing, but also to justify every choice that you made. So very important. Be transparent and also justify why was the good approach. Okay. So in the method section, you need to discuss things like for example, how did you search for the literature? Like which keywords do you use? Which key engine, which search engines? How did you limit the search? Did you find literature outside from this kind of systematic search? What kind of limitations did you put into this? What is the quality assessment of the literature that you find? So discuss all of these things. We had the lecture on that, like how to do the search. So I gave you many tips. So talk about these tips. Try to always document what you have done, and also discuss why these choices are good choices. I show you this Prisma figure where you have like how you started, like the very initial sample, and then you maybe remove a few after just screening the abstracts and the titles, and then you come up with a number, and then you will finish with minimum 10 papers that you think are very important. So these 10 papers, or this figure is important because it will show the reader how you reach the final number of articles that you are discussing in this chapter. So it's, I think, a good idea to include it here in 2.1 method of literature review. And then the literature review in itself, I think it can be tricky because it's difficult to find the best structure. But I think that what you can do, as I mentioned in the lecture, is that start maybe one section with your independent variable or dependent, discuss what we know about it, what we know about AI usage, the dependent variable, and then discuss the independent variable, your other variable like locus of control, what do we know about it and what it means in the context of your study. And then what do we know about the connection of these two? What do we know about locus of control influencing AI, or what would we expect? Maybe there is not a particular study connecting both, but maybe we can get a sense of what can happen. So maybe try to find try to connect it. If you do not find text or articles that literally connect them, try to build the argument. Like this article assumed this, and maybe we can assume this in this context of AI usage. And also, as I mentioned, in that first section, which is very important when you collide both concepts, maybe you can discuss the themes that emerge, because this theme and this clustering of the themes is important for your qualitative work. Which are the key things that are repeated in the papers that you identified? I guess technology will be important because it's AI, but is there something about social aspects? Is there something about regulations because it's on the university? Or is there something about cognition because it's about humans interacting with this? So try to do it like that. And finally, the last section 2.3, and also before I finish, maybe you can also would like to include a figure with mapping the literature, like which clusters emerge from your topic. I think that would be nice. And then in 2.3, the hypothesis setting. I think you will also learn this in the quantitative lecture, but state a clear hypothesis which is connected to your research question of what is a relationship, which is the relationship between X and Y is positive, or there is a positive relationship between X and Y, or negative relationship, depending on what you read and what you assume. There is nothing wrong if you do the test and then you realize it's the opposite, or if there is no relationship, we are going to theorize from those findings. So you only need like a kind of concluding paragraph that will allow you to support the hypothesis. So in terms of length, maybe this is like 1 page, I think, so maybe 2 paragraphs, including the Prisma thing. The literature review, it can be as short as 1 or 2 paragraphs for each section, and then including your map of the literature in there. So maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs for the first variable, 1 or 2 paragraphs for the second variable, and 1 or 2 or 3 paragraphs for the connection. And finally, 1 paragraph for setting the hypothesis. That's more or less the length. Let me show you the good example that is here. We go to the literature review. So here we have method of literature review, very transparent, justifying with sources about why they did it like this, and then they include the Prisma figure. As I mentioned, something to improve maybe from this submission is that I think 3 million is quite a big number for the first search. I think you can put more filters before to reduce the number. And then the literature review in itself, I think, is well structured with the first variable, second variable, and then the combination. And then I think they also present kind of a framework or map of what is important in here. And finally, the hypothesis, very clearly stated here. I think something important to something to improve is that you do not need this. I mean, the hypothesis states that you don't need that. You can just start with financial stress has a negative relationship with. So that's it. That's the second chapter. I think you can, I mean, like you should always start looking for literature because that's important. It takes time and try to do your best for this submission. I do not expect it to be perfect. I know it won't be perfect. I know it will be improved. So don't feel pressure about it. Remember, it's also important that you submit and I will give you feedback. So thank you for listening.